Hello and welcome back to another tactical analysis video on Arsenal Analysed. I'm JC. I hope you're doing well. We have one hell of a game to break down for you today. 5 goals. Watford versus Arsenal did not disappoint. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, a like would be super appreciated. And if you feel like you've learned something new, why not consider subscribing? It massively helps me out. Let's start off with something easy, dive straight into things. The lineup. Only 1 or 2 surprises for me. Not sure if you agree, but Martinelli starting on the left-hand side because ESR now has COVID. We did see him pictured in training earlier this week. Didn't think it was too serious. Would he have started if he was fit and available? Martinelli got the nod either way. Cedric continues at right back as well. Tomiyasu feels like forever since we've seen him in an Arsenal shirt. Hopefully it's nothing too serious in terms of a reoccurring injury, as he's been an absolute superstar since signing for Arsenal. The rest of the squad pretty much picks itself when it is fit and available, as we've mentioned in previous videos on this channel. Looking to the substitutes, some usual faces. Nicola Pepe coming on for Martinelli, and Nketiah for Lacazette, and then very late doors, Rob Holding in the 90th minute for Martin Odegaard. Now, unlike in our previous game, we didn't have to rely on those substitutes to making impact and change the game. But it is nice to see the likes of Nicola Pepe, for example, starting to put a string of games together. Now, moving into statistics and tactics, we can see on screen here that Arsenal did dominate for large parts of the game, as well as having quite a few shots, generally speaking, throughout the 90 odd minutes. No other stats there that really jumped out at me for both Watford or Arsenal. But moving into the passing shape for both sides, it jumps out at me straight away that Arsenal seem to really want to create more of an impact down that right-hand side. Maybe Arteta has seen an area to exploit there. And likewise, if we have a look at Watford's heat map as well, lots of deep red on their left-hand side. Is it because that was an area they were looking to exploit in Cedric, or just simply because they just had so much defending to do down that side? Now, in some of the next slides, we are going to break down some of the goals, go through Arsenal's shape and some of the changes that we're now starting to see in Arteta's new formation, or Artetable, as people are starting to call it. But just quickly before we get into that, we can see here in Arsenal's passing shape, Saka yet again the furthest forward out of all of the attacking players. And we are starting to see these clusters on the left and right-hand side, groups of 3 on the right-hand side. We're quite often starting to see Odegaard, Saka and Cedric. And on that left-hand side, we're starting to see Xhaka more in that advanced role alongside Martinelli or Smith Rowe when he's fit and available alongside Kieran Tierney. And then we're seeing interchanges between Thomas Partey and Lacazette. That 4 in midfield is becoming more of a diamond at times, that diamond being Lacazette up top, Partey at the base, and then either side we're seeing Xhaka and Martin Odegaard. Now, this was Arsenal's first goal, and boy, what a goal it was. But in picture number 1, I just want to highlight here this triangle that we're now starting to see more and more often. Now, prior to Martin Odegaard starting to feature more and more from sort of December onwards, in previous games, what we used to see Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka sitting side by side with each other in a deep pivot and Martin Odegaard just in front. But we are starting to see that transition into a 4-3-3. And picture number 1 in this particular move really, really highlights that. In picture number 2, what we're starting to see more and more, as mentioned in the previous slide, are these wide rotations. Now, in this particular picture, we're seeing Cedric on the ball with Saka and Martin Odegaard making up that triangle, creating overloads out wide and making it really, really difficult for the opposition to actually keep up with play. And in this particular move, Saka eventually makes that run in behind the back 4. And in picture number 3, we can see here Saka has the ball nice and wide. And yet again, we're seeing that triangle creating problems for Watford from that midfield. Thomas Partey sitting just outside the box. Granit Xhaka in that more advanced role. And then we've got Odegaard on the right-hand side of that triangle, who eventually picks up the ball from Saka's cross, as we can see in picture number 4. and he buries it. What a great move. And the relationship, as mentioned in previous videos, between Martin Odegaard and Saka is really, really starting to develop into something beautiful and hopefully in years to come, world class. Now, in picture number 2 is the first Watford goal. And we can see here from the very, very first picture, Arsenal are set up with 2 really good banks in terms of defensive lines. In the red line here, we can see the back 4 of Cedric, White, Gabriel, and Kieran Tierney, marking those Watford players really, really nicely. And then in the black line, we can see Arsenal's midfield. Now, as this play develops, it does get stretched a little bit with one of Arsenal's players dropping into that back 4, making up a back 5. But we're still in a really, really comfortable position with more Arsenal players, more red shirts compared to those Watford players. Now, where things get a little bit sticky is in the red circle. We can see here that both Martinelli and Granit Xhaka are effectively closing down the same player. And Granit Xhaka should have been looking to track that run that you can see here in the black circle and then that line highlighted, which is eventually where the Watford player ends up. And this is highlighted in picture number 3. And funnily enough, it's Martinelli who reacts fastest, where it should have been Granit Xhaka tracking that run. Eventually, the ball does come into the box to the player that we can see here in the black circle. And look, credit where credit's due in picture number 4. He scores a bicycle kick. It was an absolute phenomenal finish. And all of this happened inside what was the first 15 minutes, I think. And from a neutral fan's point of view, well, they would have been enjoying what they saw. Now, moving into the third goal of the game, a number of things, again, that I'd like to highlight here. This time, we're looking at wide rotations on the left-hand side. The red circles and lines highlight that we've got Kieran Tierney, Martinelli, and Granit Xhaka. As you can remember, if you take yourself back to that very first goal, we look to highlight the wide rotations on the right-hand side. This one highlights the wide rotations on the left. So we're replicating that both on the left and the right-hand side. However, we can see here from the black line and pointed arrow that Gabriel has the ball. This is where he eventually plays the ball in to, I think it was Bukayo Saka. It was intercepted by Cleverley, but Bukayo Saka eventually dispossesses Cleverley to bring the ball into Lacazette, which we can see here in picture number 3. Lacazette lays it off, which is highlighted in the red arrow, before in picture number 4, Saka scores an absolute belter. Left Ben Foster rooted to the ground. Now, quickly going back to picture number 2, because we didn't talk about it in this particular move. Again, highlighting that diamond that I mentioned all the way back in one of the original slides. We can see here at the base of midfield, Thomas Partey at the tip. We've got Lacazette all the way out to the right, Martin Odegaard, and on the left-hand side, we've got Granit Xhaka. So we're starting to see, as I mentioned, this 4-3-3 develop and new roles within the Arsenal squad. Now, this was the third and final goal for Arsenal. And in picture number 1, we have to credit Mikel Arteta with a pre-assist. He thought fast and got that ball back into play, throwing the ball to, I think it was Saka, who eventually, as you can see in picture number 2 here, plays the ball into Cedric. Cedric plays the ball into Martin Odegaard. Quick thinking with that flick over the top, as we can see in picture number 3, to Lacazette, who's highlighted in the black circle. Finally, in picture number 4, Lacazette lays the ball off for a first-time finish. And unfortunately for Ben Foster, this was the second time in the game where he was rooted to the spot and could do literally nothing about it. He quite literally falls to his knees after this hits the back of there. Another world-class finish. It just feels like, I think at least 4 of the 5 goals in this game were absolutely top notch. Now, the final goal in the game did fall to Watford. And unfortunately, something that Arsenal have been really, really good at this season after those first 3 games is our defending. But there were a number of really poor decisions from the team, generally speaking, in this particular game. Now, I know Roy Hodgson has his sides set up really, 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 really well, but it was disappointing to see some of the mistakes that Arsenal made in this particular game. Now, in picture number 1, we can see here that the Watford player in the red circle and the line, the red line and arrow, is where the ball eventually ends up. Now, Granit Xhaka is the wrong side of Sissoko. Now, this is a great lesson of getting, the goal side of your man. And we've got Ben White in the yellow circle in the far distance of picture number 1, who's looking to track that run. And we can see here why it's so important in picture 2 to get goal side when marking your man, because Sissoko controls the ball in behind Granit Xhaka, leaving with Ben White having to make a decision to come across the player, make potentially a bit of a rash decision on whether or not he wants to win that ball. And unfortunately, we can see here in picture number 3 and picture number 4 that Ben White goes past the player, doesn't really want to dive in and give away a penalty, just in case Sissoko messes up that shot. Unfortunately, he manages to squeeze the ball under Aaron Ramsdale and into that bottom left-hand corner. And this came in around about the 86th or 87th minute. Fortunately for Arsenal, the game ended 3-2. Now, this is going to about wrap up the deep analysis part of this video, something that I've just introduced into my videos, and I'd really appreciate some feedback down in the comments below. Is this something that you'd like to continue to see in future videos or not? Now, something that we do feature in all of the videos are key players, or key players at least in my opinion, and someone who has been absolutely fantastic for Arsenal of late, especially since stepping in for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, is Lacazette. He's picked up a total of 8 assists and 1 goal in his last 9 Arsenal appearances. He picked up 2 in the game against Watford, completing 86% of his passes. 2 key passes, winning 6 out of 11 duels and completing 1 out of 2 dribbles. He was absolutely phenomenal, dropping deep, and we highlighted the importance of that role he plays at bringing in the wide players when working at the tip of that diamond in some of the previous slides. Martin Odegaard continues to impress. 4 key passes, 91% passing completion against Watford, and he picked himself up a goal as well. He is becoming the most unplayable player within the Arsenal team at the moment, and to think that he's only 23 years old, I've highlighted it in previous videos, we have a player on our hands. And to consider that he plays in a really advanced role, he actually also managed to pick up 4 tackles against Watford as well. Absolute workhorse. But star of the show, star boy himself, Bukayo Saka, a player that has often been criticised for not contributing enough when it comes to providing assists and goals. He is now 13 goals and assists for the season, the most out of any player at this part of the season, for any player under the age of 21 in the Premier League. A goal and an assist to his name. He continues to impress. This boy belongs in the Champions League, and hopefully he can be the one that takes us there come the end of the season. 84% passing completion, 2 key passes as well. Is there anything this boy can't do? Prominent figure down that right-hand side. And as already said, he is building up a fantastic relationship with Martin Odegaard. Let me know down in the comments below, who is your man of the match for Arsenal versus Watford? Was it Martin Odegaard or Bukayo Saka? For me, it was Saka, but let me know your thoughts. Now, finally, before we wrap things up, there are a number of shout-outs on screen, as you can see. We've got Judge, Stu, Tim, James, Wirham, Georgina, David, Luca. We've also got Sports365, John, Keith, all with score predictions. Unfortunately, including myself, none of us were correct. I don't think I saw any predictions across social media or YouTube, generally speaking, who got this one right. But if you do want to feature in a future video, all you need to do is check out my preview videos that come out a couple of days before these ones do, and comment your prediction down below. Right or wrong, you will get a shout out. So do please keep an eye out for those preview videos. Speaking of which, we do have one coming up for our next game, which I think will drop either Wednesday or Thursday this week for the Leicester game. Another big game, another cup final in Arteta's words. So do keep an eye out for that. And as already mentioned, if you have enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like. It really does help me out. And if you're new around here and you felt like you learned something today, why not subscribe? I'm less than 40 away from that 1200, which is what I'm aiming for. So really, really do appreciate if you do subscribe. But I hope you have enjoyed today's video. That is going to about wrap things up from me today. But for now, I'm JC, and I will catch you in the next one. Stay safe and take care.